Tell me what the hell are you scared of when in the end the only
Where's the love? Right here on this podcast. Welcome to Love Drop, where your hosts and One Love ambassadors, Charles and Diane, will share love, hope, and inspirational topics taken from their journey and world events. We will also include on-location recordings and special pop-up guests from cool places all around the world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
whether big or small, love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never fails.
Welcome to another episode of Love Drop Podcast. And we are so excited about our guests. And if you haven't guessed it yet, again, we have another LinkedIn connection. I'm telling you, LinkedIn is really funneling in some amazing guests to the Love Drop Podcast. This guest I connected with via his shared perspectives. And he doesn't just give an opinion, he has an illustration, he has things that really make you think, things that make you want to just share them forward, and things that make you want to invite him on the show as a guest. So, without further ado, Charles.
Yes, I am so glad that I spoke with our guest prior, and he gave me authority that I could say Nick G. His last name has 12 letters to it, so I didn't want to fumble through the correct pronunciation. So without further ado, I'd like to turn our mic over to Nick G. If you will, introduce yourself to our listening audience.
Well, once again, thank you so much for having me here. I'm very grateful. The last name has always been a standout throughout my life, even my teachers who had to earn it at a young age. So for disciplinarians or anything like that, it took them a moment, to pronounce it. And as we were joking around earlier, my wife alone of being married 26 years, last year she just figured out how to say her last name, as we were saying. So, God bless her. Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Nicholaos Gouvouniotis. Nick is fine. I'm a resident out of New Jersey. And, first and foremost, I'm known. I'm a family man, married to my incredible wife for 26 years, Vanessa. Together, we raised, amazing sons, and also welcomed our grandson, who's 3 years old, from my eldest, which is, a big part of, our family. My family's a rock. They consistently remind me of what truly matters out there, and they inspire me to push forward and remind me constantly every day of what my purpose is and, why am I keep on, trying to become a better version of myself as I go. Professionally, I had it's been quite a ride. I stepped into the automotive industry at, 18 years old. And at that time, it was considered a grown man's business. So, being young and surrounded by seasoned professionals was not that easy at that time to gain any floor respect, you know what I mean, being a young 18-year-old. But, I realized early at that age that success wasn't just about the experience. It was the how I chose to view and see the world. So I shifted a lot of my perspectives, at that time, and started focusing on the solutions instead of like the obstacles that we had, and which helped me, at that time, quickly rise through the ranks. And, at an early age, my early 20s, I became a general manager of a large auto group. And, I worked my way up to a dealer principal and president of my own dealership, at that time. But, it's still, it goes to show, like, when, dreams get turned into realities if you really want it and you work hard, but once again, you're going to hear me anchor on my family a lot, because, without my wife and kids there as my supporters and my why of what I did, they're one of the main reasons behind it. But, more force, you know what I mean? My main thing is I've always loved being an entrepreneur. That's always been a big thing in my heart and everything. So, you know, while pushing forward and still being in the automotive industry, I expanded my time in my early 20s, and I started with real estate and community development. Started with renovating and managing. I think before the age of 24, 26, I had a portfolio of 17 homes at that time. And, you know, during that same time too, being an entrepreneur, because you know, my wife is like, you're like the yes man. You keep on taking on projects. I ended up opening up a call center during that same time. And it was geared towards, this is all around my automotive field, which was mainly to help out automotive dealerships and customers with F&I insurance and product. You know, all these adventures that I did, they weren't just like business to me. They were opportunities to create like solutions and bring value, you know, to others. I mean, anything that I did, I wanted to make sure it was not just about a profit. I mean, listen, there's no lying. I mean, everyone's in business. It's nice to turn some kind of profit. You know, as my father used to say, you can't just live off love as you get older, you know what I mean? Being googly eyes all day. So I knew from back then, I always wanted to make sure that all my businesses were tied into some kind of purpose. Like, so it was more than that. So if I built some kind of home or we're developing a community, that we knew that, you know, it's going to develop the block and then it's going to trickle in the rest of the block, it, you know, help sell their homes or whatever without disrupting the culture and the community itself. Because, you know, growing up as Greeks and my wife being Spanish, you know, culture is such a big thing for me. So anyway, majority of my business were tied into help and develop and bring other people together. The biggest thing about perspective too, quick too, about, you know, my bio and everything like this, so we're kind of giving a little insight. I just want, not every venture worked out for me. You know, not everything works out perfect, and, you know, things come and go as it go. But, you know, the one thing that I've learned, I never looked at setbacks as failures. You know, to me, there were lessons and like stepping stones that helped me grow into the person I am today. And it made me better. So, you know, as I always tell, you know, my kids is, don't judge yourself from yesterday. It's today that matters and everything. Just make sure you spend the time yesterday to be a better person, you know, today and everything. But, you know, every one of my challenges brought me closer to my goals and shaped the life that I lead today and everything. So that's a little nutshell of, you know, it's kind of hard. How do you describe yourself in a small period of time? So,
Yeah.
you know, if anything at all, a better person than I was yesterday.
I love that. I love that. A better person than you were yesterday. And I also love listening to you speak about who you are, and just me getting to know you through the various posts and different perspectives that you've shared publicly, how it aligns. That is so amazing. And I think I told you before we started the show, I said, Nick, I'm so happy to see that you meet your vibe. Like, you and your vibe, you match. It's a match there. It's like the person behind the screen, because a lot of virtual things going on now, you know, it's a lot of
Yeah.
social media, or, you know, even on LinkedIn and
Mhm.
things, people make posts and people make these videos and this and that. And they say there's real life and then there's like virtual life. And the goal here, at least for me, and I see for you as well, is just to make a match, so that when you meet me in real life, you already have a sense of who I am, because I match my vibe. I match that persona that I'm putting out there to the world.
Yes, and when you spoke about creating solutions, what's done in the past is done. You can't change that. The
Right.
future's not promised. Any and everything that happens in the now. It happens in the now. And with you being an individual creating solutions, wow, that says a mouthful. There's a wealth going on there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely a perspective.
It is.
This is a good way to pivot into the topic of our discussion. And the topic of our discussion today is the lens of perspective. The lens of perspective. I mean, we have three sets of glasses here on the screen. So we're all looking through. So I'm sure on any topic, we can all bring our various perspectives to the forefront. You have a book on perspectives. You do lots of posts on perspectives. So just take us into your world of perspective, Nick G. How did you get so keyed in on just a matter of perspectives? Yeah.
You know, it's funny when I was starting in the automotive, and it's funny how this book was actually not written, but started 15 plus years ago, easily, maybe further. And recently I decided to tie a lot of them together, as I stated before, like the journey that we go through, through life and our different obstacles is what really creates what we do now. So when I sat there and I was looking through the lens of perspective and I started piecing it together, I used different challenges that I went through in life, and how I looked at things. I mean, hence, as I said, the automotive industry was a grown man business. It's different than it is now. You have people that are within their 20s or, around that age stepping in, more of, coming in. So during that time, it was more of a, not saying negative vibe, but the weight of being in the showroom, and how they spoke to you and how it came across was not as friendly for both ends. And I'm not saying just for the consumers. I love my industry. There's a lot of good people. So I'm not bad mouthing the industry at all, hence I'm still part of this world, for it. But I've noticed from back then, from examples of how management and how they saw things through certain perspectives and how they relayed the messages didn't really sit well with me. So, constantly throughout, my timing, I wrote down different ways of how I would look at something, or how I would portray something in particular. And it allowed me to take a situation from, and I'm not saying everything's all positive. There's negativity, but not everything has to be, negative. It could be a glass half full scenario, and it comes down to how we visualize it and how we say what our perspective is. And what a common thing that you hear out there, it's not somebody else's opinion should not matter to you. So when what somebody says about you and how you portray your perspective, it's your perspective and how you see yourself that matters. So this book started from a young age and then carried through the lessons as I went through in life. And, a lot of the sections that are highlighted within my 12 chapters really take the time to sit there and showcase, like, between gratitude and, not just leadership. There's a lot of other key perspective words out there that really tie in of changing, of doing this to help you this. And I hate to say, not to use the word hate, to use my book as the ultimate human being, out of it. But for me right now, to have this book, it allowed me to become more of a better human being by following these different guidelines of being, appreciating the gratitude itself, our perspectives. And that's one big downfall we see in a lot of us, where we don't appreciate sometimes the small things. So, one thing alone too, that I just appeal out, from my book itself, that I put out, that I know gratitude, we all pick up and state that it's the job promotion, or hey, it's launching a new company, or something in that. It doesn't have to be fantastic. It could be getting that first parking space when you pull up at the mall. You know what I mean? Or something in small ways. But majority of my book, I've outlined different examples. It's a self-help book, is what it's categorized under. And throughout the 12 categories, you'll find different scenarios that are not all business related. They're relationship related. I tell my wife every day, and this is a big Tony Robbins thing, and I love it that I heard it from him. He said a while back ago, he was like, imagine when you first start dating somebody and they tell you to take out the garbage. And you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll take out the garbage. And then 3 years down the road, you're saying your wife or your spouse says, take out the garbage. You're like, what the hell? Do I look like the garbage man? You know what I mean? Type of thing.
Yes.
And, part of this, when I was writing out throughout the, God bless Tony Robbins. I love how some of his stuff, but putting out was more of, even ties in towards our relationships. So not everything is business related, for it. It's relationship. It's yourself in general. Every day I date my wife. Every day I date her, and God bless her. I love her to death. I want to kill her sometimes, but I'm sure she wants to kill me too. You don't stay married and be with somebody 26 years, from it with no reason. But the book helped me align a lot of these different chapters together.
Wow. So, we jumped right into the book. So I want to circle back because someone listening might be like, well, wait a minute, hold up. Did I miss something? Because we kind of went from perspective and we right into, the book, right? So I want to just put the car in reverse a little bit and go back to the book. Right? What's the title of the book that you are writing or you have written?
Yes, it's, and I apologize. I'm sorry. Sometimes I could get I'm very passionate. I could get a little carried away within this topic. The book is called The Lens of Perspective. The subtitle is, it's a transformational guide to life.
Wow. The book is called The Lens of Perspective. And through.
Yeah, it's through the lens of perspective. That's correct.
And then a transformational
guide to life. Correct.
Wow. I love how a lot of our guests here lately have that word transformational in their titles or in, just on their platform. Our website is Paths to Transformation. So it's like that transformation. Yeah, it's like we are, we have a attraction to transformation. We're bringing transformation, in here. So I love that. And also, no apology, my friend. We kind of just dived in there together because I think as we were talking, it was just a double dive. But I just wanted to bring it around for our listeners. You gave a lot of background to how you got that book started and what inspired you with that book. And I want to just, as a woman, for our listeners, dive into that perspective you have of dating your wife every single day. I want to go into that just a little bit more because I think it's amazing. And so, let's talk about that.
That's great. You know what? It took time for me to learn, and I'm still learning. Every day, my wife and I are, we take our marriage very serious to each other. And we understand, first of all, that, being together from the age of 18 to 19, I had my first son when I was 19 years old. So we got right into family. I was a different person at 18, 19, as anything, as growing as a couple in relationship and dating your spouse. The person I dated in my 20s is different from and I'm not going to age my wife, but, the 30s and 40s and change, for it. And we're different. We're different people. And, it's more of, when you date somebody and having a relationship like that, it's more of meeting each other at their levels at where you are currently at the age that you are, because we're constantly learning and expanding and, and what we read and see and who we want to be in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on, for there. So I find it very important to date your wife. And I call it dating because it should be dating. It shouldn't be, we're going to go out to dinner. Dating takes a lot more preparation to put together when you go out with somebody. You put more effort behind the conversations. I feel it's a little different of, hey, I'm going to go on a date with somebody. Okay, let me just make sure I look good. You know what I mean? My hair's combed, my teeth are brushed, it's that first impression type of feel. And it's something that I find very important in my relationship. Everybody has a different way that makes it work for them. And, I find that part for myself, that worked extremely well for me. And we don't call it date nights or anything like that. Say, okay, Friday, nothing should be, I feel on my end, nothing is, I don't want to force dating the relationship. But, part of the perspective is to respect what my wife sees and she wants out of her chapters, and I see what I want in my chapters, and we respect each other's boundaries and to help each other out to reach each other's goals so we can actually get there together, because, at the end of the day, if you want to be with somebody, and it's great to be able to grow there and meet each other at the connection points when you get there at that point. So, very big. So I call it dating.
I love it. I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing. And, I like the part where you said just meeting her at her perspectives, her boundaries, her needs, the things that she wants. That is so important. And it ties into this conversation on perspective because, in a matter of perspective or through the lenses of perspective, sometimes we see things differently. So it's very important that we recognize that. And even what we may think would be fantastic, if that is not what she is requiring, asking for, or wanting, then it's not going to land right. So I just think, I think that's great. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And looking through those lens of perspective, ironically as it is, Diane and I had this conversation earlier today. We were saying you can look through the same window and see something different. So that doesn't make you right, the other person's wrong, or either or where that's concerned, but it does make it different. So just respect the differences and continue to go at it.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and 26 years means that, obviously something is hitting right. 26 years, and you guys have children. You mentioned sons.
Yes. Yeah, I have 3 boys. 2 of them are in their 20s. My youngest is 15. And, my eldest has a beautiful son that he brought into the world, which is great, because the fact of, being young parents as it is, my wife and I, and having the energy, not by age, but mentally, you could be whatever age and be checked out of energy, for it, that we have, that my grandson is actually feels like my son, when he's around, and it's, it's just a great joy. But yeah, I have my 3 boys, my grandson, and, you're so right about through the window. I'm sorry to go back to that. I love that whole aspect of it, you said, Charles, because I am a believer that everyone's normal is different. And, if we respect that, we could get further in life, just in general in society, just respect each other's normal. I love that. I was just circling back when you said that. Those words kept on coming back and forth in my head. And I was like, wow, Charles, that's great. So if you don't mind, I'm stealing that. Okay. So going forward, if you ever hear me say that, I'm going to always give Charles the quotation for it. Okay? I got you, man.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Because along those lines, I've said time and time again that age just being a number, you're judging that by how you feel, what you say, what other people say about you. And then it boils down, hey, it's just a number. It's just a number. Continue to move. How do you feel? You might feel like 20 or 30 and you look like you're in your teens and vice versa or what have you. But again, hey, it's just a number because I've said so many times, if you didn't know what year you were born in, how old would you be? So then you got to think about that.
Yeah.
I got a lot of stuff to write down about you. Oh, this is awesome.
Just know this, one of our biggest things is caring and sharing. So anything that you hear, just go forward with it. Coming from the 3 perspectives, I was thinking, Nick, when you were saying that you have a grandson, in my mind, because I knew that there was a grandchild, and in my mind, I'm saying maybe you and even your son per se were like, yeah, come on, let's get a boy or, whatever. But I'm sure that your wife and even maybe your grandson's mom was probably like, girl would be great. It'll be great to get, to have a girl. So that again is looking through the lens of perspective, right? Because from your lens, it's like, come on, let's get a little slugger. And from your wife, maybe like, let's get a little ballerina in here, I got this husband and these 3 guys. It'd be great to have a little girl.
Vice versa. Vice versa for that one. I want the girl. My wife gets along great with with guys. I think the girl would
Wow.
have been different. I
Okay.
want my little girls, but three young men. I'm sure that I will. One of them will bless me with a granddaughter eventually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
Okay.
just be patient. Be patient and we'll see. We cannot wait. You can tell us all about it. And
Yes.
that's interesting. So see there you have it. That's interesting with perspective. Sometimes we will make the assumption, we'll assume it's probably this away. And when it all comes out, it's like, well, actually, my wife is cool with the guys.
Mhm.
It's me that wanted the little girls. So
Mhm.
that is very interesting. That is very interesting. I'd like to pivot here a little bit and just
Mhm.
ask, what is the inspiration about the perspectives that not only you share with the world, but you also add graphics to it and everything. You got this whole Nick G perspective brand. So what's the inspiration behind that?
I go through every day, and you know it's funny because I've been talking about this just recently, and I've never heard it put out this way. Maybe I hate to say it because I know the wheel hasn't been has been invented a long time ago, but I call it social affirmations, if anything at all, and basically when I place things out there, I'm not placing it for the readers. I place it more for myself. So when I place something out there, something that I want to see next, and then I go back into my social media and I say, am I doing what I'm posting for it? So that's when you see a lot of my messages I come across. It's, I am a glass half full guy. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes it can make like, how do you look at everything so positive? This just happened. And I'm, for it. But the illustrations are there because of, for me personally, learning when I was growing up, I had problems reading. So illustrations were a lot easier for me to figure out stuff. So, when I post and I put those inspirational things out there, I put visualizations for myself. And I assume that there's, more than one of me out there, with stuff. So, I kind of feel like the visual is the first thing that pops up to be like, okay, so mentally check. I see that, and that's a feel good illustration. And then the message that comes across, I try to keep it as simple as possible, with some of the messages, just so it could hit home a little bit faster. Sometimes I elaborate, but the inspiration more comes from who I want me to be, and I use it as a roadmap for myself of what's next. You could call, as I said before, social affirmations for myself.
Wow. I love
Mhm.
that. And I'll tell you what I really, really, really resonated with there is that you're doing it for yourself. So you are filling up a lot of people with your inspiration, but you're filling your glass first. You're doing it for you. And then it's overflowing into the lives of others, such as myself. I've shared a lot with Charles, the things that you've put out there. And I'll tell you, I'm an avid reader, but I love the illustrations. I love the
Mhm.
simplicity because it sticks. Sometimes you just want to see something like the sign behind you, the little affirmation that's behind you
Yeah.
right now. It said it's already yours. It's already yours. You just look at that, and just that phrase could just be so universal. It just depends on what set of lenses is looking at that phrase, how it will hit, how it will resonate. But it's a powerful
Thank you.
affirmation. Yes.
Thank
It
you.
is. And at the same time, you're reconfirming that a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yes.
On and on again. You'll do those things without even thinking about it. Hey, I like the picture. I like the picture. Well, there's 1,000 words
Correct.
in all of those.
Yes, that is
Correct.
amazing. So I have a follow-up, and that is, so will your book have illustrations as well? Will your book be like your social affirmations, or will it be a different?
You know what's funny? When there's no illustrations, but when I finished writing the book, and I know it's non like me at all. Me personally, I would have had a coloring section in it. Uh, I didn't write it to sell it, to be honest with you. I wrote it to complete a book on my end. That was it. So when I put it together, it was more of writing to feel. I've always said I wanted to finish a book, and it's stuck on my list for me. So when I finished and I did the book, it was more towards good job, Nick. You accomplished it. You did it. You did it. You wrote yourself a book, and now you can continue going forward, out of it. But no, it's funny you say that, being a big illustrative, and seeing the picture, for it. It's more of the book is more of you're reading and you're managing your own pictures, out of it. And I'm not going to give myself the credit now saying that, the book is written in a way so you can illustrate them in your own mind for it, out of it. I would like to take credit that I thought of it that far ahead, that the it's so well written that it was actually, that you could just imagine what it should look like for yourself, out of it. But, no illustrations, but I think I did a good way of explaining and using different examples in the book that really, as I said, it's more of a self-help book. And I really stayed by those guidelines by reading other self-help books on how a storyline, the how to do it, and what to look at for key indicators for that perspective in that topic of overcoming it itself. So I'm hoping that the illustration pops up in the reader's head when it comes down to it at the end of the day.
That is awesome. And I guess I'd say, what set of lenses were you writing this book for? So what was your audience? Who were you writing the book for? Because you say you did it. It was a check off the bucket list. Okay, I get that. But who were you writing for? So what was your targeted audience?
You know what? This sounds a little weird to say, and as I said in a poll, I write for myself. I write for me. I reread it for me, for myself. This is me to read. It's a reminder, and I too. And I would love to take back the checklist bucket, because anything I do is not really a bucket. I know we like to describe it that way, but the book is meant for an audience who's similar like me, who has difficulties overcoming or seeing things in a certain manner, that they can sit there and say, hey, listen, it's raining outside. Oh my gosh, it's raining outside. And as little as to say, it's good for the grass. It's going to really do great for my grass, outside, or something within those small matters of taking a look and, looking at things at a glass half full. So I think it's for anybody out there of all ages. I didn't restrict my book based on a certain age level. I feel like it reached a majority of the ages. Doesn't matter which sex. It reaches everyone in particular. More for how to become, as I said, I'm not saying a better human, but for me, it made me a better person and allowed me to really look at things towards the positive things. So it's a broad for everybody out there, that if you could pick up 3 or 4 things off that,
Yes,
it'll go a long way.
Thank you. And what I picked up from talking with you and listening to you, that you gravely support the positives, and while doing so, suppressing the negatives. You mentioned about it's raining outside. The positive end of that is good for the grass. Not, oh, it's bad weather, I don't want to go outside. So you're continuously supporting the positives, and the negatives are suppressed automatically through your choice of words, and is gravely appreciated.
Well, I'll tell you
Thank you.
too, is your book sounds like something I'd like to have on my shelf, something I'd like to read, because the fact that you're writing it for yourself, to yourself, and you're sharing it with the world. So when you said that, what came to mind was the book, The Shack. The book, The Shack, that was like a bestseller and just, over and over. The author, I believe, wrote it as a bedtime story for his children. It wasn't even written it wasn't written to become a New York Times bestseller. My book, Clearly Ready, that I wrote that book because I always said that I would be an author, but I considered it like, I call it chicken gumbo for the soul. So like how they say chicken soup for the soul, I call it
Mhm.
gumbo. And it's just inspiration. And it's just like sharing my life experiences with others in hopes that they will be able to use it as a roadmap. And it started with my children and my grandkids. And so my grandchildren, they've read my book. And so it's that easy that they can read it. And I read it. Sometimes when I want inspiration, I will
Mhm.
go to my book. I've written two now, and then Charles has written a
God
book as well.
bless.
And so I read my book. I get inspiration from my book. There's something I can open it up and get inspiration from the book. And so when you write from your heart, when you write from that perspective, then it's pouring out love. It's pouring out life. It's pouring out inspiration to you first, and then as well to the world. And
Mhm.
people gravitate to that. People gravitate to that because it's nothing like speaking from a platform of positivity, glass half full, and then seeing you in real life and you're a real tyrant or just whatever. And it's like, oh my God.
Yes.
So it's just like you're doing that
Yes.
for money. And it is unfortunately a reality that we do live with, but it's something that we can choose. It's a lens and a perspective that we can choose to turn away from. And from your playbook, just be better tomorrow than I was
Mhm. Yes.
today, and then be better just forward. I love that live better forward
Mhm.
mentality. I love that. I
I,
love that.
yes, I can gravitate towards that. I love it as well. I think I made the statement earlier. You can't change the past. You don't know what the future holds. Everything that
Mhm.
is done in the now, is done in the now. So I know from my writing perspective, I'm writing several books at the same time. I'm saying, slow down. I didn't ask for this one, but it came up, it came out. So
Yeah.
I write it, and then other times it'll come up. I'll go back and add to that. As Diane said, going forward, continuously
God
moving
bless.
forward with the positives.
Yes, yes. So just from your perspective, is this your first book? This will be your first book?
Correct. You're correct. This is the first published, that I placed out there. I have a lot
Okay.
of private books that I wrote for myself and for self notes, but yeah, it's my first one that I put out there. So it's special to me, than anything else. It's very special, and I hold it dear to me for putting I opening up a lot about me and putting it out there.
I
So
love that. I love that. So
Yes.
when should we expect this book to hit the stores, or has it been released?
it's recently released. As of right now, too, it's being shared and purchased on Amazon, and also with Barnes and Nobles, as well, which is nice as a brick and mortar type of stuff to be able to actually physically walk in somewhere and pretty soon I'll be able to touch my book on the shelves at Barnes and Nobles. So that's very exciting.
Awesome. I'm excited about that. So I
Yes.
get to go to Barnes and Nobles and find your book. So I'm excited about that as well. I guess I'd like to just give you the floor and just speak from your perspective as a first-time writer. What inspiration would you share, with other first-time writers? What is something you'd like to share?
Yeah, too, what made it easier for me is writing something that's not forced. If you don't feel it in you, don't start. I can't say don't start. Start writing. Always start writing, So I
Yes.
can never say always start writing and don't force. That's what I mean. Don't force something to come out when it's not ready to come out, for it. So,
Yes.
if it's not completed feeling in your soul and in you when that's ready to be, shared with the world, sometimes too it could take time. Perfection doesn't happen overnight, for it. So it's great when you can sit there, but use a real life experiences that helped you out. Not everything has to be a grand story of opening a Fortune 500 company and doing something. That's how I took over the world, type of thing, through perspectives. It's more of how you got to being happy with yourself and where you are, or whatever the storyline itself that hits home. And something that, one thing I saw is mute out any of the criticism or negativities, while writing. If it means something to you, it's going to mean something to somebody else. It doesn't have to hit home with everybody in the world, out there. So if you sell one book, which is, as I say, thank God for mom and dad. I know I got one book that was sold, and out of it. But if it reaches, a few people and it'll reach others. But as long as you feel good about what you put out there yourself, that's all that matters. It's your opinion that only matters out there in the world, is what you think of it.
Yes.
This is so true. And both Diane and I, we've gone through this where writing is concerned. Some days you can sit there and you only get a paragraph out. Other days, you might get several pages or chapters, and you're on a flow and just let it go, let it go, let it go. Other days it's there. It's like baseball. You get up there, some days you might hit a home run. Other days you might be called out.
Great. I love that.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah, but keep in the game.
I love the flow that Charles hit that right on point.
Right.
Just the flow. It's a flow that shouldn't be forced, but allowed. Just give room for that creativity to come through. And if you just write, like you were saying earlier, just write. I've found that if you just write, don't edit, don't correct, just write, let it all just come out. Then you can go back and mode it, but just write. So I think we're all looking at that from the same perspective. I think one other thing that I really want to show before we got off is just the heart that you have with service to others, the heart that you have to just let it flow and give it away. You don't use money, a monetary value, as your governor for the things that you're doing. Just kind of share that. And I want you to share it from your perspective, because someone could see you and say, well, you're very successful and you've built businesses and just look at you from that lens without just seeing that back perspective that you have with success. So just from your lens, speak to us on success.
Success is in the eye of the beholder. It's just different measurements of success, as long as it feels good to you, out of it. For me, success has always been not of what went in my pocket, but how far I've reached other people, and what it's done for the people around me that's extended outside of my family. So success is when I see, I was a street kid growing up, you know what I mean? So, when I see somebody that comes in off, who could have went down a different path or something, and I was able to give them options, and they decided to take the option and make it even more than what it was. Well, that is success for me, when I can see and grow other people. Majority of the stuff that I currently do is it's more to help out, more of a bigger cause to help people out. And as you were talking before, when we were talking before we jumped on, and more than just saying, hey, I'm sorry for your condolences, you know what I mean, for it, but being there as someone bringing in a toy or something, bringing, for the fires or something, as you're using that as examples before, that goes such a long way. And just being hands-on and being part of it, go a long way for it. I mean, currently right now that we think of, the biggest part of success is my wife and I just started a journey for the Gouvouniotis Foundation. And that's meant to help out our women's shelters for domestic violence and their children. And, I wish I had, which I will have more to give to the foundations. And this is all self-funded that we're putting out there for them, out of it. But it's more of us and the family and my children being part to show up to the shelters and being there and helping with starting counseling and programs, and really being an impact in someone's life, because it's not always successes. And a lot of people measure success by the income, and it's not. It's a false statement. It's nothing to do with income. It's all about what you're doing for, how you're helping the world, humanity. I feel success is based around humanity, not income at all. So if I had to base it around success using humanity, that's where I want to be a very wealthy man.
Yeah, oh, I love it. I
Love it.
love it. I love it. And
Mhm.
it resonates with us because it's the give back. It's
Correct.
like what you're giving back, not what you're storing up, not what you are marking off on your calendar or chalk, or just
Mhm.
keeping account like I have this much of that, or just what you're filling your bank account with, but what you're filling humanity with. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's awesome with the foundation. And that's one of the things with Love Drops is when we have our guests here, we like to support what they're doing. So in support of your foundation, what do you have where our listeners can maybe contribute or support, help you along the way, to help fill that glass?
You know what? The foundations, and this is what's fantastic about all these foundations, and I would love to promote the heck out of the foundation I have. But the foundation could easily be look up your current shelter that's in your local community and show up. There you go. Keep your money in your pocket. Just show up and do something else there. Every community needs help somewhere. And right now, I'm starting local. If you could conquer your neighborhood local, that is the trickle that goes forward and forward. So the only thing I can say is right now we're currently showcasing our foundation on our LinkedIn channel. But the
Okay.
message I want to put out there, don't come helping my foundation. Go to your local community, go to your local shelter. It's easy. You can Google it, show up. What can I do to help out? If it's once a month, once every 3 months, once a year, that one time is one more person helping out during that time frame. So if you want any advice from me, check out your local community and support with your local people. And that's going to take it further than anything else.
I love
I
that.
love it.
That
I
is
love
that is so amazing because it's just like we are lighting a candle in our community. You go light a candle in your community.
Yes.
Our whole thing is showing up is a superpower. We truly believe that. We believe more than anything, just giving your time. So wow, that gave me
it.
goosebumps.
Yes.
And
Thank
I
you.
that
Thank
was
you.
that
God
was
bless. God bless. Thank you.
yeah, that was beautiful. That was
Thank you.
that was beautiful and true.
Because I was hearing throughout that it's more what you put in a person's mind, not in their pocket. What can you put in their mind? Get the
Hmm.
wheels turning and spinning and
Hmm.
doing some things there. Yeah, it has more reaching effect, positive effects thereof. Yeah.
Wow. I was thinking also, that saying it says if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, then he'll eat and he'll eat and he'll eat.
Love
So it's
that.
just like you can't take credit for that one though. That's
Not at all.
I can't take credit for that one though, but just I mean you just illustrated that perspective with that ask. So totally 100% just really appreciate that. I really appreciate you sharing your perspectives. I really am excited for the journey ahead for you, for your family, for your book. We definitely want to have you back out again. Once your book is in Barnes and Nobles, we want to have the opportunity to speak with you some more about the book and about that journey with your book. Now, how can our audience support your book? And don't tell them to write their own book. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Tito, just to let you know, every dollar of the book that is sold is going to 100% to our local and some of our nationwide what's called women's domestic violence foundations. So it's 100% of the profits will be. So any book that is purchased will be going towards the foundation, and you'll be helping out the cause of domestic violence with women and helping out their children, for it. So, that's where greatly it's a blessing. So just to let you know, I hope that when you do purchase the book, which is at Barnes and Nobles, but Amazon is also online and an easy way to access the book. So you can easily go to Amazon. It's Through the Lens of Perspective. It's a transformational guide to life. And that's a quick way. It could be purchased anywhere because, Barnes & Nobles is United States pretty much. And Amazon is global. So my message is really meant out there for global. So Amazon is a go-to for you. I'm sorry, Barnes and Nobles. I don't mean to say anything bad, but Amazon reaches, and it's easier to get access to my book.
Awesome, awesome. So what we'll do is we'll put the link to purchase your book in the narrative of this podcast. And also we'll put the link into the supporting organization for domestic violence also in the narrative, and efforts to get people on board with their support starting in their communities and then just taking it out global. I want to just say that I personally commend you for writing a book, but then allowing the proceeds to just be 100% used to support a charity. That's a boss move. I did like 50% of the proceeds of my first book to go, but just like 100%, that is definitely a goal to go for. I think that is phenomenal.
Thank you.
I think that's
Thank you.
using your gifts to 100%, just support a cause. And I think that that's great. I think that that's great. I wish you so much success, Charles.
Yes, that is phenomenal, because when Diane was mentioning about 50% of the proceeds of the book, the more books that we had out there, we ended up giving them away
Oh,
anyway.
yeah, we did that too. We did. We passed it out.
Passed on. Other folks, we would
fantastic.
send them books and say, give it forward, pass it forward. We would go to different engagements. Do you have your book? Yes, we do. We'll sign them, and here it is. And
That's beautiful.
yeah, so it happened that way. Didn't start out that way, but hey, that's the way it took us.
That's the way it took us. So as we are wrapping this all up, we always ask for our guests to leave a love drop. So from whatever, it can be from this topic, whatever you'd like to leave with our listeners as a point of inspiration, please feel free to just use this moment to do so.
Funny this exactly what I was telling my son, and this is as of yesterday. The life you want is already at your reach. You just have to change your perspective to see it.
Wow. I love
So
that.
I don't know how it became, and you know what I mean? And they make fun of me as a walking fortune cookie sometimes around my house right here. But it came out that way, for it. So I would love to end it with that.
Wow. One more. Can you just read it one more time? Because that was so.
No, of course. The life you want is already within your reach. You just need to shift your perspective to see it.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick G, for your time, for your yes, for your share. You gave so much information today. We appreciate it. And we are going to jump into Charles's favorite question before we sign off.
And my favorite question is, what is the best way for our listening audience to get in touch with you?
I have two ways. LinkedIn is definitely a great way to get in touch with me. It's LinkedIn, at the Nicholaos Gouvouniotis. We could also add a link. I know it's a long name on there.
Yes.
And also to my email. It's another one you have to earn. It's NicholaosGouvouniotis@gmail.com. Are both fantastic and easy ways. But I'm constantly on LinkedIn. So, and, reading a lot of different things. So it's an easy way to inbox me on LinkedIn if you ever want to reach out and say hello.
Awesome. We will put both of those links in the narrative. We will also put the link to your book in the narrative. And that way it'll get a start for people to get in touch with you, to support the amazing things that you're doing in the world, and just to hear more of your perspective. to get some of those fortune cookie.
Yes.
No.
No lucky numbers.
No lucky numbers.
No lucky numbers.
No lucky numbers. Nick, it has been fantastic. It has just been
Likewise.
so
It's phenomenal.
wonderful and just relaxing. This has just been a great conversation. We welcome you back anytime.
That'll be a privilege. Thank you so much.
Yes. And we just asked our listeners to go check Nick out and support that book. 100% of the proceeds of Nick's book is going towards domestic violence. That in itself is a phenomenal perspective to have. That is definitely walking your talk and supporting the things that you believe in. Nick, we thank you again for having the time for us here on Love Drop Podcast. We thank you for your yes. We thank our listeners for staying tuned. And as Charles and I always do, we sign off with one love.
Never a second will I waste, never an opportunity to taste the sweetness of this life.
Thank you for tuning in to the Love Drops Podcast. Be sure to follow this podcast and share the love with everyone you know. Until next time, this is Charles and Diane signing off. One love.
Love it conquers all, whether big or small. Love never fails. Oh, love it conquers all. Love never